And good morning. Welcome back. Time for our Capitol Report with CapitolBeatOK.com's Pat McGuigan. Pat, what may have seemed on the outside like a relatively quiet week at the legislature is, of course, not really all that quiet. So what we've seen is, with the demise of the Personhood bill, renewed discussion, state income tax, and also final passage of justice reinvestment. Talk about what went on at the Capitol this week.
A quick update. You know, in a lot of ways, you could make a case that the justice reinvestment bill is going to be among the 2 or 3 most significant things to happen at the Capitol this year because of the way it's going to shift some incentives within the system and provide a means, a mechanism that's practical and still very disciplined about crime. To transition more people out of incarceration and into supervision and programs that will provide an alternative to the cost factor, but are actually also more effective. So there's that. That did happen. That's pretty big. Personhood has had a rough couple of weeks. The advocates, not only because of what we discussed previously, but of course because of the state Supreme Court decision, which came quicker than I expected. Finally then, turning to taxes, after it looked like it was just almost certain that there wasn't going to be anything that could even be described as major, idea of a major tax cut, if you say between 0.5% and 1%, would be major, and the income tax seems to be back in play because the governor she didn't correct herself. She amended some of her comments made to Associated Press in a subsequent statement that, clarified she still wants a major cut. Now, the problem, what complicates all of that, of course, is the lack of any progress that's meaningful on tax cuts and exemptions. The information's all there, so the basis has been laid for future reform. Finally, a quick observation. It's very intriguing to me that Arthur Laffer, from the Reagan generation, a younger man in the Reagan generation, is coming to the state to debate UCO professor Mickey Hepner. And that's red meat. Yeah. Those are 2 quality individuals with differing points of view.
With some on like taxes, personhood, we've seen this in this session where it hasn't necessarily been Democrats that are the fly in the ointment, but actually the Republicans kind of splits, personality conflicts within the Republican caucus. Talk about that impacting the lack of progress, and why is this happening?
Well, you've got mainstream conservatives, and they are conservatives. It's kind of, there might be 1 or 2 members in the entire legislature who are Republican that wouldn't be termed conservative, but some of the discussion gets a little bit superfluous at times. If everybody's a rhino, a Republican in name only, everybody that a person might disagree with. This is a conservative Republican caucus, but there are gradations between the Tea Party and the mainstream conservatives, and then for that matter, a strong libertarian element, at least on economic issues. That creates tension. Then you do have personalities. You've seen it play itself out. Jeff Hickman representing one group that's conservative, and T.W. Shannon in some ways being a mixture of that and kind of the Tea Party elements, showing itself in some of his votes. Now, you can't get a majority to go along with any major tax exemption reform, and yet OETA did manage to survive. Yeah. Now, Shannon and Hickman split on that. So I wouldn't accuse either man of just being driven by personal ambition. I'd just say it's interesting to watch the personalities at play. Finally, quick thing, the veto of the liability exemption because of storms, which originally applied only to mobile home parks, eventually got expanded to provide exemptions for all Good Samaritans. That was an interesting thing because of the way a high number of Republicans allied with the Democrats in fighting Fallon's original veto. So those are quick observations. It's not so much anybody violating principle, it's a clash of visions on how to get to the end result. And a more restrained and moderate view, if you will, is coming out ahead when it comes to taxes.
All right, we have just a little time left and just a little time left in the session. What do you see happening? Look into your crystal ball.
Okay, after all that caution, I'll say there are always May surprises, much like in elections we have October surprises. So watch for something maybe more dramatic than the conventional wisdom expects on taxes, or something unexpected. Maybe a budget deal that's a little tougher on the bureaucracy than people have been handicapping. A final observation is kind of a generational change that might be represented by Laffer's visit, because you have that echo of the Reagan years, but instead of the federal level, it's playing itself out in the states, the battle over the role of government.
All right, we'll be watching. No, you will be. And you can read more about all these topics at CapitolBeatOK.com. For Pat McGuigan, I'm Alex Cameron. Have a great Saturday.